Hi guys, it's Sherry. I hope that you are having a fabulous day. Thank you so much for your purchase of this awesome digital download. And I hope that you'll have just as much fun crafting it as I had making it. So y'all, let's get started. So here is the magnificent piece you've purchased, and here is what we'll be making together today. I love it. I love designing boxes, and this one has turned out to be one of my absolute favorites, and I think you're going to like it as well. We have a drawer, and then we also have two shelving areas, and you can also place additional shelving in if you want, and you'll see how to do that as we build the shelves for this one. But isn't this just fantastic? You could actually place some feet on this and turn it into an even more decorative piece. I have mine sitting flat because I created it in the pedestal style, but you can most certainly bling this out with some feet. All right, guys, so I'm going to run through the list of supplies that you'll need to make this project. And I will also have a supply list attached as a download. Now for this project, and for most large box projects that I do, I like to use rolled paper because I don't like having too many seams showing from where you're joining papers. So if you really want to get that finished professional look, find your favorite wrapping paper, your favorite wallpaper that you might have, whatever it is you want to use. If it's rolled paper, you're going to get a great result on this project with that. Now, if you don't have rolled paper to complete this entire project, you will probably need at least 7 pieces of 12 by 12 paper. And then you'll have to join those papers to get the length that you'll need to cover the chipboard pieces. So here is what we're going to need for chipboard. And you can see I've got a lot of chipboard pieces here, but this project will actually go pretty quickly. I have 4 pieces that measure 1/2 by 2. I have 2 pieces that measure 5 by 2 7/8. I have 2 pieces that measure 6 by 2 7/8. I have 1 piece that measures 5 by 6. And these will all be used to build my drawer. I have 2 shelf pieces that measure 5 1/4 by 5 7/8. I have 2 pieces that measure 6 1/2 by 5 1/2. I have 2 pieces that measure 6 3/4 by 5 3/4. I have 2 pieces that measure 7 by 6. And for the body of our project, I have 1 piece that measures 5 1/4 by 9 3/4. And I have 2 pieces that measure 6 by 9 3/4. And then the last piece of chipboard that we're going to need is a piece that measures 3 5/8 by 5 1/2, and that is for the front of the drawer. So these are all of the chipboard pieces that you're going to need. And like I said, I will have a supply list attached as a downloadable so that you don't have to worry about writing all of this down. Now, one thing that I am going to let you know up front, sometimes when you're filming a video, you might misspeak. And usually when I'm editing the video, I can catch that misspeak. Sometimes I will not. And even when I'm typing my supply list, I might fat finger something. The measurements that appear on each one of these pieces of chipboard that I just went through with you, these are your true measurements. These are the measurements that you should be following. And then lastly, you're going to need a piece of decorative cardstock that measures 11 by 12. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just make the body, top and bottom, of our box. So I am going to use that same rolled paper that I used on this original project. And this paper is from Hobby Lobby. And unfortunately, it is a discontinued paper, but I'm sure that you can find some rolled paper out there that you might like for you. So what I'm doing is I'm just laying out these pieces, and then I'm going to cut away a piece of my rolled paper. And like I said, just find your favorite pattern on some rolled paper, and let's use that for this. Now, if you don't have rolled paper, you're going to need to join 2 pieces of 12 by 12 to get this part of the project. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to take a piece of my 6 by 9 3/4 inch chipboard and lay it down. Then I'll take my 5 1/4 by 9 3/4 inch piece, which is the back, and I'm going to place it down. And I'm going to place it down, giving myself about 1/8 of an inch in spacing. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I am just going to remove my tape. We will take this piece and place it down, giving ourselves about 1/8 of an inch in spacing. And I tell you what, guys, that little handy dandy side waste paper basket that I made in a previous video, it has come in handy so many times. I don't have to worry about things just accumulating on my desk. I just move them off to the side and I'm able to keep my desktop relatively free of unnecessary clutter. So all I'm doing is trimming away some of my excess. And now we can stand it up. And we're just going to do our fold over to get the creases. And so we fold it over on all 4 sides, and what we're going to do here is we're simply going to come in at an angle and miter those edges. And now I'm just going to use my tape runner to place tape on these pieces that will be folded over. So I'm just running tape from end to end. And then I'm going to take this piece, we'll fold it over. I'll use my big old spatula to get that stuck. And we'll do the same thing right here. So we're going to get that stuck, and I'll fold over my ends. And already this is shaping up to be so pretty. I love this mint green with the gold polka dots. And you can probably go online and type in a Google search for mint green paper and gold polka dots, and you'll be able to find something similar, I am sure. So now we need to place our inside liner piece. But before I do that, I am going to go ahead and just place down some tape. And basically what I'm doing is I am laying down the tape, so I am coming in about 1/4 of an inch on all 4 sides. So I am using, so just place down your tape, and then I'll take a smaller tape and come in and place some tape there, because I do really want a decent amount of tape coverage on this base. So that is good, just like that. So now what I need is I need a piece for my inside liner. So my inside liner piece is going to be 9.5 by 17 1/4. And since I'm using rolled paper that is 14 inches wide, it's actually too wide to go into my cutter. my tabletop cutter. So I am just going to use my ruler to get a straight edge. And then I'll lay this out to 17¼ inches. And I'm going to make myself a mark right there. And then I'll flip it and try to get it straight. It might not be perfect, but it'll be okay. And then I'm just going to cut. And so now I can take this piece and I need to reduce it to 9½. So again, I'm going to make myself a mark at 9½. Place my ruler on that 9½ inch mark, and then I'll just cut. And you can actually save this because you might be able to use it on one of your other projects. All right, guys, so now what I've done is I have taken this and just run it across my desk to get some of that curl out of it. And I'm going to take this and just place it down to make sure that I have cut it the way that I need for it to be. And I see that I can take off a little bit lengthwise. So start out by cutting it at 17¼ by 9½. Then do your test and reduce it if you need to. So I'm just going to take this, put it back down, and I like how that fits on all 4 sides. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take my glue and I am going to place glue around the 4 edges. You can tape this if you want, but I like having the permanence of glue on those edges. And so I am just placing my glue on all 4 edges. And I'm going to set this to the side for just a moment because now I'm going to bring in the project base and we're going to remove our tape. And actually, I could have removed the tape before I placed the glue, but that's okay. And now that I have my tape lifted, I'm actually going to stand for this part because I can get my placement a little more even when I'm standing. So I'm going to put that down, bring in my paper towel, get everything nice and stuck. Now let's bring in our big old spatula or whatever you might use to spread and smooth. And then let's make sure that we come in and we get our spines nice and crisp so that we don't have any bubbling around the spine. So now we have the body of our project. We need to make the tops and the bottoms. All right, guys, so now we're going to make the top and the bottom. And the way that we're going to do it, we're going to cover each piece in some of that mint green paper, and then we stack it. And that's how we get that graduated look. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and cover each one of these pieces in the mint green paper. So I have already added double stick tape to the back. I am going to roll out some of my paper, and then we're just going to get these stuck. So right now I have the 6½ by 5½ inch piece. Doesn't really matter at this point how you lay them out because we're going to be trimming away excess. So let's go ahead and get them all placed down. Make sure that when you're placing them down, you place them down with some space in between because we do need to do a wraparound. All right, guys, so now that we have all of our pieces placed down on our paper, we can trim them out. We place down our 7x6s, our 6 3/4 by 5 3/4, and our 6 1/2 by 5 1/2 inch pieces. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just trim straight through so that each one has a nice little wraparound. And then I am just going to trim away a little bit of that excess. So then all I'm going to do on each one of these is wrap around so that we can do our miter. So this process that I'm doing right now, where we're mitering our edges, this is going to be the process that we do on all 6 pieces. I'm not going to do all 6 pieces on camera because you really don't need to see me do it for each and every piece. I'm sure you really want me to get on with making the project. So I am going to take my tape runner and just place tape on my wraparound pieces. Then I'm going to fold these over on all 4 sides, and then we'll get everything nice and smooth. And let's get that stuck and get it all nice and stuck. And so we have this one piece. I'll do one more with you, and then I'll do the other 4 off camera. So let's just take our pieces. We're going to wrap around to get the corners so that we can miter. I'm going to trim away a little bit of that because I don't need all of that. And then we'll just come in and we're going to miter on all 4 sides. And then let's take our tape or glue, whichever one you want to use, and we're just going to cover this and fold it over. So I'm going to go ahead and do the remaining 4, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I'm back, and we have all of our pieces covered. And so I'm going to flip this over because this is going to be such an easy process. So I am going to take one of my 6 by 7 inch pieces, one of my pieces that measures 6 3/4 by 5 3/4, and I'm going to place that piece down on that. And then I'll take my piece that measures 6 1/2 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to place it down on there, just like that. And that's how we're stacking these. So I am going to do this with glue. So I'm going to take my Reptile Glue, starting with my piece that measures 6 3/4 by 5 3/4, and I am just going to place Reptile Glue all over this, making sure that I get my corners covered. Then once I have my Reptile Glue on this piece, I am going to attach it face down to the piece that measures 6 by 7. So let's go ahead and take it, and when you place it down, your goal is to try to get it centered so that you have an even amount of border space on all 4 sides. And then when you think you do, go ahead and use your big old spatula, your ruler, your bone folder, whatever it is you can use to press down that weight to get the 2 stuck. And then we're going to take our piece that measures 6 1/2 by 5 1/2, and we are going to just do the same thing. So we're going to take our glue and just place it. And you'll notice that I have these marked base and top. It doesn't really matter. They are the same top and bottom. So then we'll take this piece and we're going to place it down on that 6 3/4 inch by 5 3/4 inch piece. And we're going to try to center that as best we can. Then we'll do the same thing with the big old spatula. Go in and get that stuck. And this is a very sturdy piece, guys. We have layered 3 pieces of chipboard, as you can see from that angle there. And we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to take our piece that is 6 3/4 by 5 3/4, and we're going to place it down on the 7 by 6. So I am going to take my Reptile Glue, go along my edges, and we will get this one placed down. And I'm going to put it down. And then I'm just going to maneuver it so that it is as centered as I can get it. And then I'll use my big old spatula to go in for that permanent stick. And then we'll take our final piece, which is a 6 1/2 by 5 1/2 inch piece. And we are going to do the same thing. We're going to place our glue, getting really good glue coverage. And then we'll take this piece and we'll put it down. Now we have both of these done. So what we are going to do is we are going to take this base and we're going to position it on that very top piece. So we're now going to take this piece and center it with that top piece. And so now we're going to just add some glue top and bottom, and we will place it down on this top piece here, trying to get it centered. It's not going to be hard at all. So I am going to take my Reptile Glue, and I am just going to place my glue along the bottom. And I'm not using a pattern that's directional, so my top and the bottom are going to be the same. So I am just going to place my glue all the way across. And now I can take this piece and I'll bring in one of my bases and I'll put it down, trying to get it even on both sides. And this is going to take some playing around with. So I'm just going to get it where I want it, trying to make sure that it's nice and even. And so let's just rotate it around and move it when you need to. And so once we have it in place and we think we have it nice and centered, I'm just going to go ahead and press down for that permanent stick. And then once we have it in place, guys, we simply need to place our glue along the top. So I'm going to stand up for this. And I'm just placing my glue over the top, just like I did on the bottom. And before I place that top, I'm just going to go in on the inside here and remove any of that glue that's running down. So now we can take our top and just place it on and try to get it matched with that bottom. And guys, this is a beautiful piece. So once you have that top and that bottom on, if you set it down, you're going to know everything's nice and even because it's not going to wiggle or wobble. So there we have the body built. All right, y'all. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and place in our shelves. So we have this beautiful body and we want to place in our shelves. So what I'm going to do, I have two pieces that are cut at 5 1/4 by 5 7/8. Those are my shelves. And I'm just going to place them in right here. And what I'm looking for is I want to make sure that they're going to go in and not bow out my box, which they are not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cover this shelf with my paper. So I'm going to bring in my rolled paper and just place that down. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Bring in that rolled paper, remove the tape from the back of this piece, and then we'll place it down. So I'll take this piece and I'm going to place it right there. Then I'm just going to remove that excess rolled paper, push my little pieces off into my bin. And so now I'm just going to trim away my excess from both pieces. Alright guys, so I went ahead and added double stick tape, and all I'm going to do is take my shelf piece and fold it over, and I'll go ahead and do both at the same time. So let's just fold that over, and then we're going to trim out that excess. So then I'll bring in my big old spatula just to make sure that we have everything nice and stuck. So before you glue them in, make sure you do a test fit to make sure that they are going to fit inside and not be too big. If they are too big, trim away some of the excess. So when I place in my first shelf, I want it to sit 3 1/4 inches up from the inside of my base here. So I have this template piece that I've cut at 3 1/4 inches tall, and I'm just going to use that on the inside just to hold it in place when I'm placing my shelf. So I am going to go ahead, take my glue, and I'm going to place my glue on the 3 raw edges of my chipboard. And make sure that you get a good coating of glue, because this is a shelf. It's not designed to carry excessive weight, but you can put little things on here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stand up. So I'm going to take my piece, put it in, and then I'll start sliding it down towards this piece. And that is how I know I've got it 3 1/2 inches from the base. But I'm also going to take it and go all the way across with it. I can press back to get it stuck and press in on the sides. And then where you place this shelf, it's totally up to you, but do a fit before you place it. So this time I think I want a little less space in that center shelf, so I am going to pull this one in a little bit closer. This will have smaller shelf space inside than this one or this one. So I am going to do the same thing. Going to take my glue. This time I don't need a template piece because I'm just going to eyeball where I want my shelf to be. And I'm just going to place my glue on the 3 raw edges of my chipboard. And then we can get these stuck. So now I'm going to take this piece and just sort of eyeball where I want it, because I really want it nice and close to the one below it. So when I have it in place and I have it straight, I am going to press back. So I'm pressing down to make sure that I'm hitting the back of this box, and then I'll press in on the side to make sure that I have a nice stick. And so there we have our box with our shelves. So now what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to place a couple of supports so that our shelf has some additional reinforcement. So grab those pieces. You have 4 of them that measure 1/2 inch by 2. And we're just going to give these a little bit of cover. So I'm just going to take this, place it down, and I'm going to do this with all 4. So I'm just adding some glue. Place that down, get it nice and stuck. And do the same thing here. And then we're just going to trim these out. And these are just going to act like supports, just like if you had slats on your bed. This is going to be a little bit like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take these. I'll show you on the top. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking this slat and I'm placing it right underneath the shelf in the center, and I'm gluing it down so that that shelf will rest on that slat. That's exactly what I'm doing on the underside. So I am going to take my glue, place my glue, and then I'll take this piece and I'm just going to slide it in wherever I want it to be, and then I'm butting it up against the shelf on top of it so that it serves as reinforcement. So I'm going to do this on the opposite side as well. So I'll just take this piece, put it in, press it back so that it's out of sight, and then I'm pressing it against the shelf, and that way we have some added support. And I'll do the same thing on my bottom shelf. So I'm just going to add some glue, take this piece, put it on the wall, and then push it up towards the shelf above it. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. And like I said, this just gives you some added strength. If you don't want to do this part, you really don't have to if you don't want to. For me, I just like having that additional support when I'm making a project like this. All right, guys, so the majority of our project is done. Now we need to do the drawer. So to make the drawer, you're going to need these pieces of chipboard, and it should be all the chipboard that you have left. You'll have a 5x6 drawer base, 2 6 by 2 7/8 inch pieces for the drawer sides, 2 pieces that are 5 and 2 by 7/8, and then the front drawer cover that is 3 5/8 by 5 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and take the piece that measures 3 5/8 by 5 1/2. I have some scrap left over, so I am going to take that scrap and use that to cover this piece. So then I'll do the same thing that I did on the other. I am just going to fold over those edges. Then we'll miter. And my glue happens to be handy, so I am just going to take my glue, place some glue, and get it stuck. And I don't need to put down an inside liner piece on this because the drawer itself will act as the inside liner piece. So we have that piece done. Now we're going to do the inside of the drawer, and I am actually going to use, I have a lot of this paper left, so I'm actually going to use this to do the inside of the drawer. On my first one, the inside of the drawer matched the color of the shelves, but I have so much of this left that I want to go ahead and use it so I'm not wasting it. So I'm just going to take all of these pieces and cover them with paper. And then when I cut these pieces out, I am going to cut them out so that I am cutting right against the edge of the chipboard, but I want to have a top piece that I can fold over. So again, I'm cutting out. And I'm ending up with a piece like that. So then I'm going to take my top and just fold it over. And I'll take my glue and just place some glue to get those stuck. And then I'll use my big old spatula just to go over these to make sure that I have a good stick. And then the last piece that we need to cover is our base. And I don't have any more scraps, so I'm just going to place that down and just trim out what I need for that base. So then I'm going to go ahead and just place some tape on these pieces. And I'll place my tape right at the top and at the bottom, or close to the bottom. But make sure that you're getting tape as close to that top edge as you can. And then on the drawer front, we're not going to put any tape. We're actually going to glue that piece together. So I'm just going to smooth out all of my tape, and then we will build the drawer. All right, y'all, we are almost done. Can you believe it? Now we're going to make the box. So let's bring in our cardstock piece that measures 11 by 12. And we're going to score at 3 on all 4 sides. And then we are going to fold and burnish all of those scores. And then we're going to take our finger blade and just go in and release our flaps. Now, one thing I am going to do is I am going to do a very slight angle closest to the big flap only, just on my outer flaps. So a very slight angle. And then I'm going to put this box together with glue. So I'll take my Reptile Glue, place glue there, and I'll join my box together, making sure that I have everything nice and crisp. And I'll do this on all 4 sides. So just make sure that when you're putting your box together, your ends are nice and straight. And then we can come here and do the same thing. And let's just bring that up and get that nice and stuck. And now we have a drawer. I'm going to bring in my box, take my drawer, and slide it in. And y'all can see that my drawer fits, and it's fitting exactly as I want it, because when we take this piece and put it on, that's going to cover that space in between. But I want that space because I don't want the drawer to be too tight that you can't get it out. So now that we know that our drawer fits, I am going to take my piece that is 5 by 6, and I'm going to test it to see if it'll go in this way and this way. And when I know that it will, I'm going to go ahead and remove my tape and place it down. And now that gives me a very sturdy base to my box. Now I'll take my side pieces that measure 6 by 2 7/8, making sure that they fit. But on these, if they stick up just a little bit, that's okay, because we have totally finished that top. So now I can remove my tape. And I'm just going to take this, slide it inside, place it down, and get it stuck. And you can see how that is nearly seamless between this piece and that piece. And we're going to do the other piece, but I'm going to test fit each and every piece to make sure that they're going to fit before I remove that tape. So let's go ahead and remove the tape from the back of this one. Now we can take this piece, I'll slide it in, press it down, use my big old spatula to really get that stuck. And now you can see that we are starting to get a very sturdy box. So now we can take the two pieces that measure 5 by 2 7/8, and I can see that they're not going to fit. So now I'll just bring in my ruler and I'm going to start taking off small increments, and I'm going to start with about 1/16 of an inch. And that's what I'll remove first. And then I'll do another test fit. And I can see that it's still too tight. So again, I'll take off another 1/16 of an inch. And let's test fit again. And I can see that I can still take off just a little bit more. And so I'm coming in and taking off about 1/16 of an inch. And now this should fit. And so this is the process that you need to go through when you're making a box in this manner. So I'm going to take this piece and see if it fits at the back. And it does. And since I know it's going to fit at the back, I can just go ahead and make a mark of where I need to cut that piece. So I'm going to remove this tape and take this piece and slide it into place. And y'all, we have such a beautiful little box here, and it's so sturdy. And then I'm going to take this piece and just trim right on that line. And then I'll take this piece, do another test fit before I put it in, and it does fit. So now I'm going to remove the backer sheet. And I'll take this piece and we're going to put it in. And I'll just go in, make sure I've got everything nice and stuck. Now we can bring our project piece back in, and you see that that drawer fits. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and place this piece, and I'm going to place this piece while I have the drawer in the box. So I am going to take my glue and I'm going to place glue on the drawer. And then I can take this piece and decide where I want it to be. So when I put it down, I want it to look even. So you can see the front of the body of our project is pretty much even on both sides of that box. So now when I pull that drawer out, I can go in and get it stuck. And you can see that we have a beautiful fit on this drawer. I'm just waiting on my glue gun to warm up so that we can place our drawer pull. And guys, just a couple of troubleshooting tips. If your drawer is too tight and won't go in, or your shelves are too tight and won't go in, what that means is that when you place down these three pieces for the body, the spacing is either greater than or less than 1/8 of an inch. All of that can have an effect on the outcome of your project. So if you find that your shelves are too tight or too loose, or the box is too tight or too loose, that is where you would go back to begin the troubleshooting process. So I hope that helps. So the last thing that I'm going to do to my box is I am going to place down a little gold drawer pull. And it's more of an accent piece, but it will open that drawer. So I am just going to use some hot glue on this. You can use Reptile Glue. And that's what I used on the first one, but my glue gun is hot. So I'll just go ahead and use my glue gun. So I'm going to take that, place it down, And so now I have another beautiful box to go along with the first one. Now, if you want to add additional shelves to your box, all you need to do is just cut out more of these pieces here, and then you can place them wherever you want your shelves to be. All right, guys, I'm back with the finished project. And don't you think that it just looks fabulous? So I did go ahead and add a third shelf because I will actually be giving these to someone, and they wanted another shelf in this one. So I'll pull out the drawer and you can see that we have a shelf here, a shelf here, and a shelf here. And don't you think that this is just magnificent? It is so, so sturdy. So I'm bringing in the original so that you can see the different ways that we can place our shelves. You could even take the drawer from the bottom on this one and move it to the middle. So you can get all types of different looks depending on what it is that you want. You could even take vertical shelves and place them up and down across the bottom, the top, or the middle. It is totally up to you how you want to build your box, but now you know the process to build it as we have it here. So then you can take it, alter it, and turn it into another variation of what we have here. So again, I want to thank you for purchasing this private digital tutorial, and I hope that you have so much fun with this project. You guys, as always, be safe, be kind, happy crafting, and we'll chat later. Bye.